Welcome back to the Spectre Creative channel. I get a lot of questions about comparing different aspects of the toy company. I've worked in the toy industry for about 25 years for both small and large toy companies, and that's what we're going to talk about today. What is the difference between a large, giant Fortune 500 toy company and more of kind of the mom and pop company? No, they don't actually work out of shacks in the woods like that. It's much more legit, but there are large and small companies. Obviously, all large companies at one time were small companies. Hasbro and Mattel both started in the 1940s and 50s selling doll furniture and became the powerhouses they are today. So if you are a license holder or a retailer and you're looking at what company you want to go with, well, there's pluses and minuses to both. Both large companies have advantages and disadvantages, and the same with small companies. Now, there's about 4 large companies. Spin Master is gaining. They're not quite there yet. And Lego only does one category, construction, which means in the end there's really 2 large toy companies that exist today, Mattel and Hasbro, having purchased some of the smaller ones like Kenner and Parker Brothers. Some of the mid-sized companies you may be familiar with include companies like Jakks Pacific, Playmate Toys, known for making Ninja Turtles, MGA Entertainment, known for making all those Poopsie Surprise and Bratz Girls. But there's a lot more companies out there that fall into the small box, from the high, the mid-tier, and then sort of everybody else. And there's literally hundreds of toy companies just in the US alone. And most of them you honestly have probably never heard of, unless you flip over the box and look at the legal line. Outside of the obvious big ones, at New York Toy Fair, there are literally hundreds of booths. Mattel's takes up an entire floor. Hasbro's in a different building. And some of the booths are large, some of them are just fold-out tables in the back. So, what are the advantages and disadvantages for large and small companies? Well, the first one is speed to market. And this is where a small company actually has the advantage over a bigger company. The best way to think about it is a large toy company is kind of like a giant boat that is holding huge amounts of product and overhead and just stuff, if you will. And because of all of their procedures, it takes a long time to get to market. A small company is more like a speedboat, where they can kind of zoom around, make very quick decisions, have fewer sort of cooks in the kitchen. A toy company that's big, a Fortune 500 company, is going to take 2 to 3 years to go from concept, brainstorm, to a customer buying an item on shelf. Whereas a small company, being that speedboat, could have product on shelf in as little as 6 months. It's not always going to be that tight, but I've seen it happen. It is physically possible. And it's because there's just not as many people making decisions. Things can happen very quickly. And it's interesting when you have trends that come and go in the market, like unicorn toys that were huge a few years ago, or another good example are slime toys, which are starting to fade. Heck, there's even unicorn slime toys, bringing both trends together. And it's interesting to note that most slime toys are made by the smaller toy companies, sometimes even by craft companies or companies that make art supplies, like Elmer's glue. Were quick to figure out that since their main product was the main ingredient in slime, that they should start putting out slime kits. Elmer's became one of the biggest Christmas toys 2 years ago, which is crazy. Should have bought some Elmer's stock. But it's interesting to note that for as big as the slime craze was, and for all of you who have kids, you know what I'm talking about, the company Mattel that invented slime in the 1970s never had slime toys. They did not put out slime kits. I mean, they put out slime-based toys in the past. Of course, there was the famous Slime Pit, the Horde toy from the 1980s, 1985, I want to say, and revisioned as Harry Potter's Slime Chamber from the Chamber of Secrets movie about, well, gosh, now this is like 15 years ago. But there were no slime kits. Mattel can't, as a big company, can't take advantage of these sort of fly-by-night trends very quickly, and they have to let them pass them by. So, another thing is media and money, and specifically the amount of what's called non-media, which is money put towards advertising a product. Here's where a larger company has the advantage as opposed to speed to market with a smaller company. So large companies can buy advertising in bulk, and they do. A lot of times they buy this in advance, not even knowing which products they're going to advertise or even which departments. But because they're so large, they have such big purchasing power, they have such large amounts of what's known in the financial word cash on hand, financial world. So they can buy ad space way in advance for much less money overall, and that allows them a competitive advantage to having more overall commercials and media to purchase to advertise their product. So if you're a licensed company and you are choosing which company to go with, going with a larger company is in a way going to guarantee you get more TV commercials, more advertising for your product, simply because the company can do that. Another one where the smaller companies have an advantage is overhead. So overhead is part of any business, whether you're making teacups or tires or toys. Ooh, a teacup, tire, toy. That's interesting. So the larger companies, again, your Hasbros and Mattels and Legos and somewhat Spin Master, have your large corporate offices. They have large amounts of rent. They have large amounts of employees, which means healthcare and photocopy paper and every possible aspect of keeping a large employee base employed. So this means large amounts of overhead. And overhead means all of the parts of a company that do not include the actual production of the item, everything that goes into it. And that includes rent, that includes, having computers at everyone's desk, having pencils at everyone's desk. So a small company like Jada is able to pump out items quicker and sometimes cheaper because they don't have huge overhead. They're a small family-owned business with only a handful of employees. So when I was at Jada in particular, I worked on this Nano Metals line, which was a 99-cent action figure. Whatever the configuration, whether it was a 5-pack or a single, it was designed to literally be a 99-cent impulse buy action figure. To take that place in the market, there was sort of a hole in the market where the only toy that was 99 cents aimed at boys was really Hot Wheels. And that was in the wheels category. And I'll tell you some conversations I had with kind of some ex-Hot Wheels people when I was at Jada. They could not believe Jada was able to get these figures out at 99 cents. And that's because Jada's a smaller company. They don't have to pay for giant corporate offices and all of the other overhead that come with it. So it's an advantage. All right, so back to advantages now for larger companies. And this is a big one. The global logistics network that a large toy company has that a small company can't have. What this means is the ability to both source product and produce product all around the world and distribute it. Lego, as an example, has multiple corporate offices all over the world. And because of this, one, obviously they have that large overhead we just talked about, but having this value chain model and the ability to distribute worldwide and do it quickly is a huge advantage. They basically own the entire sort of a chain from coming up with the concept, building the concept, shipping the concept, and selling the concept. This plays directly into how toys relate to movies. So some movies, some IP is assumed to be a guaranteed hit, and a company will gear up to have a large product line. Other times, the hit can be completely unexpected. And in this case, the large companies, because of their global distribution, have a huge advantage over the smaller companies. When a movie comes out that wasn't expecting to be a hit, well, let's look at an example. Superman Returns came out the same year as Cars, the first Cars movie, and I was at Mattel at the time. The thought was Superman Returns was going to be the runaway hit of the summer, and Cars was going to be a one and done. Well, it turned out to be the opposite. Superman Returns did okay, but Cars took off and became a billion-dollar brand, even in years without a movie. Now, smaller companies would not have been able to do what Mattel could pull off. Because of their global distribution, they could chase the box office increase production and get more product out there while the movie was still in theaters and was hot. This meant they weren't going to be leaving money on the table that a smaller company would lose out on. So the large distribution is what gives large companies this kind of advantage. So in the end, which company do you go with? There's really not just one best choice. There's advantages to being small and fast. There's advantages to being big and having large distribution capabilities. And hey, the important thing is, now you know something. And when you know, you know. I hope this video has been insightful on the difference between large and small toy companies. If you have questions or there's aspects of it I didn't cover, please let me know. Leave them in the comments below. Share this video, like this video. It tells YouTube to share with more people. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.